Alright guys, JoJoLands Chapter 39 just released today, so I'm about to go over it right now. So this chapter opens up with Usagi and his mom having a conversation. I say conversation, but really it's completely one-sided. Usagi does all the talking, his mom is just at a complete loss for words, just stuttering and stammering. But Usagi basically tells her that nothing that's happened is her fault, and that he's going to get back the $300,000 and Tori. And after this short exchange of words, Usagi and the rest of the group go to the parking garage that Merume told them about. We then switch to JoJo and Dragona talking, with JoJo suspecting that someone is watching them, but he doesn't exactly know from where. Then Dragona just suddenly turns to JoJo, starts tearing up, and starts apologizing for always bringing him into terrible situations and basically ruining his mind and ruining his future. But then JoJo, just being JoJo, of course has a different perspective and basically explains that you can still have a bright future as long as you're moving towards a goal, even if that goal is an unsavory. He then gets like low-key philosophical with his words, saying how the path they're on now is the one they're meant to follow, and that they have a radiance powerful enough to shatter the absurdity of what people hold dear. Then he ends off his little speech by confirming their three main goals: getting the lava rock, saving Usagi's sister, and getting rich in the process. We switch to Paco, who inquires to Usagi about faking the camera feed in the parking garage, but Usagi is totally out of it and just in a complete unresponsive state, which makes sense. He got his leg bitten off by a lion and he's kind of semi-bleeding out. Paco starts frantically searching the area that Merume told them to go to. He's not able to find anything when all of a sudden some random guy just appears from below the parking garage space. We find out that this man is Dr. Roberts, and that he just has a small medical facility under the parking garage. As they go down inside this tiny medical facility, the rest of the group tries to, ask him questions, but he just refuses to talk to them. While he's working on Usagi, JoJo finds another hatch that leads to an area that's below even this small medical facility, and figures that they literally need to go underground. But before they do, Dragona asks JoJo what he thinks Rohan's code is. And at first, JoJo doesn't really have an idea. He speculates that it could be in Rohan's work, but then he starts just randomly geeking out about Rohan's manga. Apparently he's a big fan, and he just has an epiphany while geeking out and figures that the code wouldn't be written in any of Rohan's old manga. It would have to be in his newest manga that he had just written, and that he would need to go online and look at the digital release. JoJo takes his phone out to try and look for the chapter online. Paco immediately yells at him to put his phone away, and literally right after he says that, they just start hearing these random noises. They don't know what it means, but we do. John Rod has found them. The stand just appears above the glass hatch and then shoots off these pellets from its body, which break the glass and allow it to enter into this little medical hideaway. And it literally just strikes a pose, it aura farms for a quick second before destroying JoJo's phone and then just leaving. We then cut to the group in a submarine traveling underground in the sewer, eventually trying to reach the ocean so that they can go to Hawaii. Usagi's leg has been reattached, and JoJo was just explaining more in depth about this code that Rohan put into his latest manga release, and says that the manga will be releasing at 5 a.m. in Hawaii. So the chapter ends with a short flashback of the gang right before they got onto the submarine, JoJo tells a crying, blabbering Dr. Roberts that he needs to tell Charming Man about what just happened. So this was a pretty good chapter. It wasn't one where there was a lot of action, but there was a lot of information that helps push the story forward, as well as just some generally interesting things happen. We see Usagi speak with his mom, and it's very JoJo-like, Araki-like, with Usagi's whole speech towards his mother. It's a very interesting moment seeing Usagi kind of having a call to action and actually being confident despite having his leg bitten off. We also get to see the true depths of power, influence, and money that Merume has. She has a doctor working for her that works in an underground facility under a parking garage, and she has an entire submarine. I can't even imagine how much that costs. It reminded me a bit of Gus Fring having his own doctor, but obviously we never saw Gus with anything as extravagant as a submarine. But for more story-oriented things that happened in the story that are actually important, we learn more about this code that Rohan gave JoJo. Pretty funny that JoJo is just some huge fan of Rohan's work and was able to figure out that Rohan just put this code in his newest manga release. It actually felt a bit like Araki was using his characters to kind of break the fourth wall and talk to us / represent us. JoJo's talking about waiting until 5 a.m. for this newest chapter release to find out the code that Rohan wrote down. You know, it's kind of representative of us waiting a month for the chapter to come out at this specific time so that we can find out more about the story. I just thought that was a kind of funny, clever little moment for Araki to put in. We also get to see more of John Rod, but again, Araki is just kind of teasing us with his appearance. I mean, another appearance, it's not quite on the same level as his first appearance aura-wise, but it's still filled with a lot of aura. He kind of just finds them, bursts into this facility, just straight up strikes a pose, just aura farms for a quick sec, breaks JoJo's phone, and then leaves. So despite this aura-filled, funny moment, John Rod stuff, this kind of hints at potentially the stand user of John Rod maybe, somehow overhearing JoJo's explanation about the manga and the latest release and is breaking his phone so that he wouldn't have access to it, or it could be for other reasons. But John Rod didn't kill anybody or even try to fight anybody. He just broke JoJo's phone and then left. So I'm assuming that it's for that reason. Also, my favorite part of this chapter, Charming Man gets mentioned again, which hopefully means that Araki brings him back to the story. He's one of my favorite characters in part 9 so far. Probably him and JoJo are the top two. So I'm looking forward to any kind of involvement he has with the story. But guys, that is the video covering chapter 39 of JoJoLands. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you didn't enjoy it, hit the dislike button twice. Comment, what you enjoyed about the chapter, any theories you might have, and subscribe. See you next time.